Adit Palicha and Kevale Vora were crazy enough to believe that they could transform the online grocery delivery market. At a time when other people were busy making dalgona coffee and banana bread, something else was cooking in their heads. We spoke to the young entrepreneurs to understand how they came up with the idea of Zepto.
I mean, the two of us basically were in Mumbai during the first lockdown, first wave of the pandemic, and getting groceries were an absolute nightmare. And both online options were taking 6-7 days to deliver, if you remember the first lockdown, and offline options were also not available or were very difficult to reach. And yeah, I mean, that's when we started, experimenting with what we felt would be a better product for grocery in India. And eventually, over time, it evolved into the model we have today.
Although groceries sold online account for just 2% of all grocery retail sales in India, they are one of the fastest growing segments of commerce. Online grocery sales in India accounts for 13% versus 7% in China and 3% in Europe. Even though there were big players in the online grocery space, Palicha and Vora weren't too apprehensive to enter the playing field.
There weren't really any significant strides in on-demand grocery. And the source of truth is always the customer, right? And so from that lens, when we started, those players were not insignificant strides into grocery, and more importantly, customers never got the sense that that problem had been solved for them.
Being just 19-year-olds, the founders did face a lot of skepticism initially. They, however, overcame it with their staircase of credibility strategy.
So we spoke to investors that didn't take us seriously. We spoke to, let's say, employees or potential employees that didn't take us seriously, or even when we spoke to customers and suppliers that would not necessarily have taken us seriously. We essentially built what I call a staircase of credibility strategy. Kevale and I would build the first iteration of the product, right? And that was just pure our merit, our work to get that done. That sort of initial product ends up getting a decent amount of traction. It's growing in a reasonable way. The product itself is fairly evolved. And with that, initial scope of credibility, we can go to an investor and say, hey, look at this traction, it's going quite well. They'll see that and say, wow, these guys actually have substance. And then, we'll bring that investor on board. Now, when I'm interviewing, let's say, a chief operating officer, that chief operating officer is saying, okay, these guys have got something that's exciting, they've built it themselves, and they've got a very credible investor on board. Those two things come together, and that convinces the chief operating officer to come on board. It's sort of the staircase of credibility, and that first step will always be your own execution and merit, and then that sort of scales from there, and that's what ended up working out for us as well.
Within 9 months of its inception, Zepto inched towards a unicorn valuation of $900 million in May this year. But they realized they were on the right track pretty early on.
So I think fundamentally what we're trying to build, like the gold standard of the North Star, is what we're trying to build is customer love, right? And there are two ways in which we were sort of able to identify that. The first being just literally customers telling us, but at the same time, we're able to then validate that looking at basically our retention cohorts, right? At least the core principle of getting a really fast delivery done, and the customer love that was generated from that became clear pretty a couple of weeks in.
With the increasing popularity of quick delivery apps in the country, a lot of questions were raised about riders' safety. However, Palicha debunks that faster delivery means short distances and not speeding.
When you look at how we do fast deliveries and how Zepto works, it's about short distances and not high speeds. So if you're doing, let's say, a 10-minute delivery and, you got, let's assume 2 minutes of pick pack time, right? And that is, pretty conservative. We actually do it faster than 2 minutes at a median level. But let's say it's a 2-minute pick pack time, and there's 8 minutes of a travel time for the rider to get a 10-minute delivery done. That 8 minutes and 1.7 kilometers is roughly, plus minus 25 kilometers per hour, right, on a motorbike, which is very well within what motorbike and cyclists actually travel on Indian roads.
The founders dropped out of Stanford's computer science program and returned to pursue an entrepreneurial dream in India.
We saw the kind of excitement that this model was getting out from our customers, right? The retention metrics were crazy, the net promoter score was crazy, we saw insane frequency of usage, and more importantly, customers just told us, hey, we love this product, right? And so we were convinced that, oh my God, we've built something that can actually end up scaling into a large. I mean, you can end up scaling it to like a large and meaningful business. It's very hard to turn that opportunity down, right? If you, let's say, go to an elite institution, you have a 1% chance of getting in and studying at like an elite college, sure. But I think the amount of like the chance to build sort of a large and meaningful business is probably 0.001%. And the hardest part of that is finding a product that has strong market.
Zepto currently is live in 10 cities and growing 50% a month. So what's the next big step for Zepto?
And so over the next, the short term, 2 to 3 quarters, we're going to continue doubling down on unit economics, continue to turn dark stores profitable, while maintaining, some pretty healthy growth. And at the same time, we're going to be in a position where I think the long term, we see us expanding not only into different markets, right, but different use cases and categories with sort of the same model. So that's the way that I look at the short term, long term. Today, continuing that focus on unit economics, turning stores profitable and growing at a healthy rate, while obviously in the long term, focusing on just geographical and category expansion.
Adit Palicha and Keval Vora's Zepto is expanding rapidly in a highly competitive market. And here's what drives them to deliver every day.
Especially when trying to do something that nobody's tried to do before, right? There is no set template of, okay, follow step 1, 2, 3, and then you're done, right? So a lot of it, getting to where we got has required a lot of first principles thinking, right? Which has been very exciting, fulfilling as well, right? I think a lot of millions and millions and millions of customers that we've been able to impact.
We've been lucky enough where we get to work every day with people that have decades of experience and are significantly more intelligent than we are, and so we're just able to glean a lot of great principles that I think will serve us for decades, right? From some really solid operators and team members. So yeah, that's I think the piece. It feels good. I think lots to learn, lots more to do, and that just keeps us excited and up in bed every morning.